Have you ever wondered how God did what he did? I mean, how he made himself human? How did he do that? I have no idea how he did it, but I do know why he did it. It reminds me of a story I heard a while back about a man who lived about 100 years ago in a little farming community in the Midwest. This man didn't really believe in the spiritual meaning of Christmas and Jesus and that sort of thing. He thought, God becoming a man, that's ridiculous. His wife, on the other hand, believed deeply in the meaning of Christmas and who Jesus was. And she raised her children to believe that as well. One Christmas Eve, the wife comes to her husband and she makes that usual request that he would go to church with them at their Christmas Eve services at their little farming community church. The husband, of course, makes his usual, excuses. The wife really doesn't want to get into a fight, so she just bundles up the kids and takes them off to church. As his family takes off, he can feel the wind getting stronger. It begins to snow a little bit. And it's only about 10 minutes after his family leaves that the man begins to hear a thump up against the windows of his house. And he just tries to ignore it, but he can't. He continues to hear it. And so he goes and looks outside, doesn't see anything. So he puts on a cap and some gloves and a scarf and coat and some boots. And he goes out into his yard. And he makes the most amazing discovery. Between his house and his barn is a huge flock of geese. And these birds have somehow been caught there in the storm. And they didn't have any food and they didn't have any shelter. And they weren't going to make it. And the man just immediately and instinctively wanted to help the birds. And that's when he noticed his barn. The barn would be a perfect place for these birds to weather the storm. And so the man went over to his barn and flung the barn doors open, hoping that the geese would just go right inside. And he stood back and he watched. But it's like the geese didn't even realize what the man was doing. And so he turned around and he went inside and he grabbed some bread. And he laid a little breadcrumb trail from the middle of his yard into the barn, hoping that the birds would follow the bread trail into the barn. And he stood back, and again, the birds, it was like they didn't even notice what the man was doing. And finally, in his frustration, the man goes into the barn and gets a broom, and he just kind of tries to shoo the birds into the barn. And of course, they scattered in every direction except into the barn. The man said out loud, "How in the world am I going to help these birds? They're not going to follow me. How can I save them? I would have to become like one of these birds. If I could just become like them, then maybe they would follow me, and then I could save them." And at that moment, the man realized exactly what he had just said, that if I could just become like them, then maybe they would follow me, and then I could save them. Today we've gathered to remember that some 2,000 years ago, the God of the universe essentially said the very same thing. That if I could just become like them, then maybe they would follow me, and then I could save them. And God himself became a baby named Jesus.